Good morning. It's Monday morning, and it's Monday Methods. And I'm Bradley McCalister. Thank you for coming in today. I'm just looking at my hair up there in the monitor and see that I'm already getting a little sweaty, and I always do it the wrong way. But I'll get it figured out one of these days. So let's see. Maria's here. Jeff Peters popped in. Good morning, everybody. Are we going to have some fun today? I'm ready. I've had a couple hours sleep. Hey there, Art Miller. Going to be a lot of fun turning this piece right here. This good old guy that I've been working on. This is our project. I saved all the ifs, ands, and buts and questions and how do I go about it for you. So I didn't pre-do anything. I kind of like it that way. I like you to be able to see when you have a plan and you have a theory. And if it works, that's great. If it doesn't work, how do we work around it? How do we solve those issues? So, you know, with everything that I do, there's always a little something goofy about it, and I like it that way. First thing I'm going to do while we're waiting for folks to come in this morning, I'm going to put a fresh cutter. I'm going to change the cutter out on my #1 hollower. Let me know if everything looks fine and the sound is fine. I have trouble sometimes, so I'm going to wiggle this wire right now. And you guys tell me if there's any kind of static on that, just so I know. It's such a dust bowl out here. Trying to keep all the electronics working right can be difficult sometimes. So I got my fan going. I hope that's not too much of an issue. Got the AC on. Life is good. Like I say, it's the start of the week. I'm always excited to get out here and start Monday Methods. I'm really excited this piece. I love doing these kind of pieces. So I'm going to set that. That had a standard cutter on it, and I want to go to a negative rake for the resin work. The EasyWood Tools negative rake cutters, they are just fantastic for the resin. And the #1 hollower is my favorite, and most people in the carbide tool turning world that use them a lot love the #1 hollower. And it seems like last week and the week before I didn't have it switched over, and I didn't want to take the time while I was in the middle of everything to switch it over. So I'm switching it over now. And can you believe I was here on time? Right? On time. I'm getting better at this. Something will go wrong because I said that, of course. But I'm starting to get this dialed in just a little bit. All right, so there's that. Let me get these guys out of the way. See, I even had my wrench with me today because I have a place to keep things over here now. Getting better and better all the time. Let's see. Anybody got any questions before I get going? Those of y'all that are already in here, if you got any questions, pop them up. We'd be happy to answer them, cover things for you. So this piece I cast over the weekend. You've seen, or during the week, you saw the pictures. I had in the bowl I left back in the whole back in the house, so I did do something wrong. I was going to show you the mold that this was in. And let me go to the overhead. Let me see how this looks here. Yeah. Overhead, Brad, get your brain working, get the caffeine to kick in. So this is the bottom view. Now the mold that I used, I'm going to set that down there. The mold was actually much bigger in this profile right in this corner than I needed, but that's really kind of all I could find at the time that I had around that everything that would work is the top size. So I've got a lot of extra resin right in this outer rim. Excuse me. Now what you see here, these colors, that is everybody's favorite from when they were a kid. Play-Doh or modeling clay. All right. And what I did here is I came in before I cast it, obviously, and I packed the tenon, the recess, the dovetail. I packed it with the modeling clay so that it wouldn't get any resin in there. My goal there is to preserve my tenon, so I have the tenon that exactly as I was using it prior to the casting. That's the plan. Now it's got a little bit of resin over it, but not much. And the trick is whether or not, and I'm going to use the 2 3/8 inch jaws, whether or not I have enough room for this jaw to fit back down in here. All right, there's just a little bit of resin in here, so I've got a razor knife. Of course, I can't find my favorite chisel, but first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open this area up. Okay, and if I could do that, then I could get it mounted on the lathe. Now, here's the next thing. I probably want to turn it. Let me go back up front here. I probably want to turn it this way in a set of bowl jaws. I've got the bowl jaws sitting in here, the Big Easy jaws. I really want to have it facing this way to get rid of all this extra mass. It's just going to be easier to get to. But because this is that goofy piece of wood, and so let me go back to the overhead. Hey, Corey! Overhead. I don't know if you can see right. If you can see this or not, the wood actually still sticks up just a little bit. You see that little teeny line right there? So it won't sit flat on the bowl jaws. Not quite. So I want to make the top true to the tenon. So we're going to turn this thing around once or twice, is kind of my plan. What do you think of the colors that I did? If you saw the kind of the strawberry red that I made, that I poured in, and then I mixed up a little bit more of the strawberry red with some satin white pearl and some iridescent red pearl, and that's what I poured the very last. I poured it at the top, and then I took a stick and kind of poked it down in the sides to get a little bit of swirl. Now my goal is to turn this as close to the wood as I can. My dad's here. Mary Alice is here. Dad's cat hurting. We delivered a new rescue kitty up to my mom and dad this weekend. So hopefully everything's going well for them up there. So this bowl is, the wood core is not round and it's not flat. All right, now it's got the big void in it in here, which the resin naturally filled. So it's going to be a piece. This is going to be a piece where the wood is showing in some places, I do believe, and the resin is going to be showing in others. I do want to turn it down to a fairly reasonable thickness. Let's say 3/8, half an inch, somewhere in there. Not super thin, not super thick. So I don't know really how it's going to look. It's going to be one of those, and which is what I love about these kind of projects. You don't know really exactly what you get. You got an idea, but you don't know exactly what's going to come out of this thing. Okay? Okay, so my first mission is to get my tenon opened back up. All right? Now, I'm going to try with the razor knife first. I'm going to see which ways are going to let me in here the easiest. I may or may not be able to cut through this layer of resin. I'm not sure how thick it is. And then if I just get enough opened in here to peel out, see if that's this so far, keep your fingers crossed, so far this is working like I wanted. And I'm just cutting away. It's a very, very thin layer because this was sitting flat on the bottom of the mold. Just a plastic bowl mold. Now if I've got a little thick spot there, I may have trouble. If we can get that to cut through, there we go. I think that'll work. This way I don't have to return the tenon at all. That's the plan. I never thought that at 60 years old I'd be playing with Play-Doh, but here I am. And that's okay. Be sure not to slip with the razor knife. Now this is not the only way that you can do this. There's a lot of different ways. This is the way that I like to try. A lot of people glue epoxy, 5-minute epoxy, a wood block onto the bottom. There's nothing wrong with that at all. You can do that. This is just kind of my idea that I like to play with. It may be a good idea, it may be a bad idea. We're going to find out here. Like I said, I may end up having to do some other creative things to get this out of here. And turned around and ready to turn. Getting it cleaned out. I couldn't do my wood turning without my ice pick. Thank you, Dad. So I'm just cleaning this out. It has the beauty of it is it has preserved my tenon, my dovetail tenon, exactly the way it was when I last turned this piece. So everything will be centered back up on the original center. Now, yeah, it's a little bit of work here. Everything's a little bit of work here or there, right? As long as the resin didn't get in the way. So if I was gluing a wood block on here, well, I'd have epoxy to work with and the time for that to cure, so on and so forth. And I don't guarantee, I don't want to say that this is definitely the best method. It is a method. There's always more than one way to get to something. All right. Make something work. Try different things. That's what I like to do. Watch what other people are up to. Have your own experiments. Have your own successes and failures. Let's see, if I have any resin sneak in here, then I get into trouble, so we'll find out. I have to admit, it's not exactly coming out. I was hoping it would come right back out like it went in just a roll of material, of Play-Doh. But hey, often things don't go exactly the way we wanted. But it's going, it's moving. Now if it does, like I say, if I don't get what I need here, I will work up a way to turn this around and get this cleared out. I have an idea in mind if I need to, because I do have a center hole right there to line things up on. So I may have to turn a little bit of resin away if it doesn't do what I want. But I didn't want to do this ahead of time. Sure, it would have saved the time, but you wouldn't have gotten to see whether it worked really well or if it's a struggle. That's why these are educational. And if I do the kitchen show and I just pull it out and it's all ready to roll, well, you don't really get to see everything on the concept. And you can see what I'm dealing with. Like I say, this isn't horrible, but you might have an idea, or you do this, or you watch it and you say, well, if you had done blah 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 such and such with this, it might have worked better. And so if I give you inspiration for an idea, then I've done my job and I'm very happy. I hope that makes sense to you all. Now it looks like I'm going to be a little thin right in here, because if that jaw won't drop down in there and it won't quite, then I'm going to have to go for plan B. And that's okay. The question is there how much resin is in that middle spot? It might be too much. And here's why I can't throw it into bowl jaws where I told you, because that piece sticking up, right? So that would mean I'd have to do some other goofy things. So we'll just see how this plays out. Mary Alice and you guys on the West Coast, I hope you got your coffee. Or whatever your caffeine, if you are a caffeine person of choice, in your hand this morning. Because it's only, what, 7:15 out there. I appreciate you coming in this early in the morning. All right. I'm going to get one of my little stir sticks from over here. I got them all the way over here. See if I can't help clean this out a little bit more. There we go. It's a little bit bigger, cleaner. Now the theory was that the resin, that the Play-Doh wouldn't let the resin get down to the wood. It kept it off the tenon by all appearance, but it let some get down. I'm going to lift this up just a little bit. Hopefully it stays in focus. There's a little bit of resin down on what would be the shoulder there, right? So we don't want the tenon to touch, but we do want the jaws to touch on the shoulder, right in here. And that's not wood, although it's close. So it wasn't the perfect, it didn't come out perfectly. I didn't realize, I found this morning, that I had a second box of Play-Doh / modeling clay. I should have indeed put 2 layers around, two rows deep around that tenon, and this would have worked out a lot better for me. I didn't, and so there I am. Okay. So since it's not exactly what I want, and I'm going to have to clean that out a little bit, let's see how we can go about doing this. The bowl jaws, if I put them in here, let me get, let's see what happens. So I'm going to go up here so you're not looking at the overhead. I'm going to throw the bowl jaws on and adjust those out to full size. And we'll play with a couple of ideas here for how to mount it. Aaron Clark, good morning, brother. How are you, sir? First time you've come to visit me at work. It's good to see you. Of course, I'm kind of scared. My doctor knows now how I do my living. And so what we're doing here is obviously we're going to move these buttons all the way out. How's that end camera look? You can see what's going on there. I believe all the way out is going to do the trick. Let me double check this here. No, I think maybe I'll go second row in. Second row in on these. See if we can't get this guy to mount up. And that end camera looks like it needs a little bit of adjustment. Now, Art Miller, you want me to do these yellow, black, I know. But I'm pretty sure, and I'll do it for you, Art. It's Art's special day. We'll make them yellow and black for Art Miller. Because Art's here every single week. He's a true fan and a follower, and Art's a great guy. Art was one of the first people, and I'm going to change back up here so I can talk to you guys. Art was one of the first people in my guest regional Turner program at the woodworking shows out in New Jersey. First year I did it, Art volunteered and turned there in New Jersey for us and did a fantastic job. It was great, and Art's become a good friend. We talk all the time, we text back and forth and all that good stuff. And I don't think I have enough bumpers. I don't have enough yellow bumpers here, Art, to make this the way I just told you. You know? But hey, that's what you get. I think we're going to be black. I may have even had extras on here. I think I did. I don't know how I could. No, I'm right on the money. I don't know where the other bumpers are. But we'll get this guy in here and see if we can't find a center. Now, if I don't get it perfectly centered, I'm okay as long as I can keep it running true and flat. All right. So we spin that guy to the open. Hopefully I didn't guess wrong. I always guess wrong on these, and you guys get to witness. It seemed like that was going to work, so I get to, of course, go around and move them all one more time. Don't you hate that? These have been my bane. I almost always guess one step wrong. And then we have to stand here that much longer. But it gives me a chance to talk to you guys and ask questions. Somebody, if you got a question out there, let me know what's on your mind. If you remember the feather bowl, we'll call it the feather bowl, the new crystal clear, the water clear resin. I gave that to my mom this weekend. She loved it. Of course, she said, I thought it was a big bowl. It's only about 2 inches in diameter. She said, I thought it was bigger. I said, well, Mom, it was an experiment. It was an experiment. It was good to see the folks. I haven't, because of the COVID stuff, I haven't seen my folks since I came home off the woodworking show circuit in late March. I swung by the house, so I haven't seen the family since March. It was good to get up there. We're there overnight. It was really nice to visit. Almost there. Now, I'll really be mad if this still won't go, because it should. I'll be really mad. Because we don't need much, we just need it to get in there. Okay. It's almost always my luck, it's either too big or too small. You know what I'm saying? You see, and that's the case today. Come on, get in there. There we go. Now, believe it or not, and this is crazy because things are, truth is stranger than fiction. So here's the overhead, and the bottom of this is turning flat, right? Even though this is touching here and not touching here where the wood is. So it's flat and true relative to the point where the wood is sticking up. So that's a great thing, all right? So, I mean, it worked out. Life is good because if this is in the right plane, if this is turning true like that, everything is good. Which means I can go ahead and do what I want to. So I'm going to snug these up. Now I'm going to go over and adjust this other camera before I switch over so that you can see it just needs to be moved up just a tick. I know it wiggles the overhead bar. There we go. Right there. That's what you guys need to see. Big Easy's better, that is. Yeah, the Big Easys, they work great. They work great. So here's what we have looking at from the end now. Okay? Now I do see, though, that my tenon is not perfectly centered to what it was. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and clean up around it, sneak up into it, and see if I can still preserve that tenon diameter. All right. I don't really want to return that tenon diameter because it's already set. If I have to, hopefully I have enough, or I'll have to go down to a smaller size. All right. So we're in our buttons. We don't want to get super tight there. We're not going to turn this super fast or anything. I'm going to snug that up again. Bring up the tailstock. So I can see, and you can too, if you can tell, there's a dark hole in the center. It's not truly centered on the tenon, but at least it's running flat. All right. And so this is why, one of the reasons I put the #1 hollower negative rate cutter on here. Sorry for the arm there. So that I can come right in here and get this material out of the way so I can get mounted up on this tenon. All right. Let's get our speed control over here where it's at hand. Turn it by hand since we've moved things around, make sure nothing is touching. I know that tool rest is not high enough yet. Bring the tool rest up. We want the EasyWood tools to be right at the center axis of the lathe. That's just about right there. Okay. Speed is all the way to 0. We don't want to go over 800 is what these are rated at. We don't need a ton of speed for what we want to do right now. We want it nice and smooth. There's 800. Turning true, turning smooth. Okay. Now again, my tenon's not super cleaned yet, but we're going to get rid of this material in here. That's our mission. Now, let's see. Camera is not staying in focus, so I'm going to make a quick, you'll see some setting changes happen here. I want to make sure that this is on manual, because it's, there we go. Now it's on manual. It should stay in focus. I'm watching it up on a monitor there, so that should stay in focus now. I swear I had it set on manual earlier. It's one of those, it's become one of the first things I do is set them on manual to try and keep them, because auto isn't working and that's not working either. So let me stop this for just a second and make this adjustment again. I apologize. Manual focus. There we go. Now it should stay in focus, unless it's going to fight me today. I just use my hand to check and watch, because the cameras can't handle the spinning. Even I run the camera at 60 frames a second, even though Facebook says that they won't take 60 frames a second. Once it goes through all the electronics, they seem to handle it okay. All right, let's make a little bit of a mess here. Get started to get our way into this. And I'll just go ahead and I got to get rid of all this material out here at some point, so I'm going to go ahead and take some of this off right now. It'll also help reduce some mass since I'm here. Okay. Make sure that I got a little vibration back over there. Double check. I swore I put the chuck on tight, but I'm going to double check. This piece actually is pretty heavy. Probably weighs about 10 pounds. Which, I mean, it's not a ton, but it's got some mass to it. I'm really looking forward to getting into this piece once we get going. I love these organics that you don't know exactly what you're going to get. You got to remember also it's on those urethane bumpers, so it doesn't have a hard metal mechanical hold on it. As far as some of the vibration is coming through. Alright, let's take a stop and take a look here. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to grab the mid-size micro detailer. It's got the number 7 CI7 negative rate cutter. I'm going to come right down in here and cut some of this flush away. I'm trying to get to my wood base and see what I've got to work with here. Alright, so there's more resin got up on there than I anticipated. Well, isn't that how life seems to work? Alright. So, back in with my bigger round cutter to make a little bit bigger gap in here. A little more room to work. I know there's wood right down in there before too long. I just got to find it. You know what I'm thinking here out loud. This was a 2 3/8 inch tenon. I got my Vic mark here. I might put a 2-inch tenon on it and just keep right on rolling. But I want to get down to the wood, or at least where I can see the wood. Okay, and you also have to remember, I have to remember, there's my wood starting to show up. This wood we stabilized the wood, okay? So the wood is completely impregnated with resin, all right? So let me think about what I got going on here for a second. Find my calipers. Like I say, I may change this to a 2-inch tenon. You have to be flexible. Good morning, Frank. Good morning, Mom. My mom's now watching. We set her up in the Fresh TV yesterday. She's now watching me on the big screen. It's kind of scary. Oh, sorry for the arm there. It is handy to have multiple chucks around. All the different chucks are wonderful chucks. It's just sometimes one thing does something better than the other, or fits what you need. Can never hurt to have enough chucks around. So I think we'll go ahead, instead of fighting this, we're going to go ahead and turn this to a 2-inch tenon for the Vic mark. All right. So I've got my jaws open about 3/16 of an inch on my chuck, and I'm checking my calipers. So I'll come in here and turn that tenon down a little bit. Because the piece is so goofy, let me change cameras here for a sec. Because the piece is so goofy, whether or not, an 1/8 of an inch here or there from the center, it was pretty well centered from that other original weird warp shape. So I really don't think it's going to make a big difference, and it's less work just to go ahead and turn this down to a little bit smaller. It's only 3/8 of an inch difference. So I think that's a good way to go. So that's what we're going to do. Okay. Go back over here. That way we can clean it up. We know it's all nice and true, and we don't spend all morning just making a tenon, because we got fun things to do. Much more fun things to do than spend all morning making a tenon. So let's make sure this is flat. That's the overhead, isn't it? I gave you the wrong picture. Get this, let's see what round comes out to be. When this gets round, it's going to be real close to what we're looking for. I think I'll probably leave it right about there. So we've got a little bit of wood showing. Now I need to flatten this shoulder out, okay? That's a given. Got to flatten out that shoulder so the jaws have something nice and flat to rest against. So I may need to take some of this material right here away because I can't quite get in here the way I want to. And I need to cut our dovetail, so let's go ahead and cut our dovetail. That'll help us some. We just need a shoulder as big as the jaws are. Okay. Like I say, this is the part that I really like, having to work through the problem solving part of the whole deal. Okay, so now I think that's going to work pretty well. That should give us a good grip. We have our flat surface, we have our dovetail, we have our flat surface here for the top of the jaws. Even though this is a different jaw, we want to make sure that that jaw is going to rest in there real nice, okay, and sit there nice and flat. Alright. Want to make sure that our bottom of our tenon does not touch the jaw. So we've got that. While I'm sitting here, I'm going to go ahead and carve some more of this away before we turn this around. All right. So Jeff says he's running YouTube on my phone in the shop with the audio running through Bluetooth in my shop speakers today. I'm making the screen door for the laundry room. So that's multitasking right there, Jeff. That's getting a whole lot of stuff done. And I'm going to switch over to a larger CI3 negative rate cutter just to move a little more material here maybe. We'll see. This is all waste resin right here. We all hate the waste resin, but sometimes there's a little bit you just can't do anything about. And again, because of the vibration in the urethane bumpers, we have to take it a little bit easy. Luckily, the fan blows it, the chips, all the streamers away, unless I go stand over on the other side. You see them just blowing away. That's the fan blowing. The reason this is important is it's going to be hard to get right back behind the chuck here when we turn it around. Now the beauty is that with using the carbide cutters and the round style cutters, we don't, and this is resin also for the most part, we don't have to worry about grain orientation. So if we can touch it, we can cut it regardless of which way the piece is oriented. Okay, if that makes sense. So like I say, if I was to turn this around and I'm trying to reach in the back side, because I have a round cutter, I can cut anywhere on that round cutter. Whereas with my bowl gouges, I'm limited to how I can get somewhere. So there's times when using the round style tools is very advantageous. Back to the end camera for you. We'll have this off of here in a bit. This is the biggest chunk of material. Now here's something for you to be thinking about. At some point we're going to cut into the wood. I almost guarantee it. So we'll have resin, and then we'll have exposed maple that's been stabilized. So I don't know what color that maple is going to look like, and I've got a number of dyes over on the table there. So we may be dyeing it, some of the exposed things. So that's the fun part of the mystery here, is what it's going to look like and how are we going to approach its final look. And it's a beautiful piece of maple down inside the clear. Sounded like a little pocket there. Let's stop and take a look and see what we're looking at there. Remember, so that's solid wood. That's still a little bit of resin. Like I say, we stabilize this so the wood itself is entirely impregnated in resin. So it is a true hybrid. Which makes them quite unique and fun. So I'm actually kind of setting a little bit of a curve right in here from the tendon out so that I don't have to worry about that later on. Okay? All right. I do believe I am happy. We can live with that. We can work with that. I'm going to take there's a little ridge right there. I'm going to take that little ridge off. Right in here. That way I don't have to get so close to the jaws that I might hit them. There we go. That's got a little bit of a ramp to it, a little bit of profile. Okay, cool beans. Let's come out of here and get a breath of fresh air for a minute. It is a little warm in there. And we're going to turn this guy around now, so we'll take it out of the bowl jaws. So, Mr. Jeff Peters, if you can hear me, did you get your wood dry enough by cooking to get your stabilizing going the way you need it to? Stop those bubbles from hanging around? Well, that was my controller. I hope you did, buddy. I hope that showing you in the video and talking about how the water actually boils down in your wood, they're on the big screen, worked out well. Oh, and another thing, it's not official yet. I haven't made any official broadcaster on this, but I'm going to go ahead and start offering individual one-on-one classes through the studio and through the camera system and the whole live streaming. I started on this a couple of years ago, long before it became popular. And this back wall where I can put your work onto that screen. So in a class, and we're going to have one-on-one classes, I can see your work right up close, real close, and so I can see exactly what's going on with your tool and all that. So you'll be getting an email, and you'll be hearing about it, and hopefully, folks, you'll want to sign up, spend a couple hours with me, a couple hours, a half a day, whatever you want to do. It'll be just you and me, no Zoom group, not a whole bunch of people standing around or sitting around. It'll be true education, you in your shop, me out here. I get you up on the big wall, see exactly what's going on if you're having a problem with things. Whatever you need to work on, that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to be offering, that's coming out this week. So that's a pretty cool new idea. I've been working on it for years. The plan shifted gears about a year and a half ago, a little bit. Kind of bringing some of that back into the program now. Of course, everybody will think, oh yeah, well, everybody else has been doing that. Corey, you're in. You're my first man. But I've set up to do it a long time ago. All right, let's get a Vic mark on here. We don't sell the Vic mark chucks yet, but they are fantastic chucks. The Easy Wood chuck is a fantastic chuck. Spycraft does carry that. When it comes to chucks and changing jaws, there is no equal to the Easy Chuck for quick change on the jaws. All right, come here. As my dad can attest, the top of this bowl, this top edge is razor sharp. It'll cut you. The first thing I'm going to turn away is that razor edge. Okay, so now we're mounted up in there. That looks pretty good. We'll run the tailstock up in here for safety, but we've got a good mount. I can get to, I don't have camera 4 over here. I can get to the back side, the bottom side of this, so we can shape everything. In the overhead, tell me how this looks. If this looks good, you'll be able to see, you can't see the far side of the bowl, but you don't need to. You'll be able to see the tool working here. So I tried to set that up at a good angle for you today. Again, I'm going to double check that my chuck is on tight, and I'm going to double check that I'm crushing down in there. I give that a few minutes to sink in. Everything looks good there. In the end camera, I'm going to show you the inside of the bowl now. You haven't seen the inside. So you can see, it's kind of dark down in there, I know, but you can see the wood, the beautiful wood, and that big bark opening, which is what made this piece unique. What's interesting, I kind of figured out finally what happened. Where that bark hole is, it actually lifted up the whole top section of the bowl, just rose up. When I first turned this thing, it was like, what, 9 years ago now? That bark inclusion was there, but it was closed. And then when it dried, that whole bark inclusion opened up, and that's why this section of wood right in here, came up. Was pretty unique. You never know how wood's going to move until you let it dry, and it's going to do what it wants to. So let's see, we're in the end camera there. Put the rubber chucky on here, and we're going to pop this in here. It won't mess up the bottom, because that bottom, and I know you can't quite see down in there, that's real close to the finished wood. I don't really want to turn that bottom at all if I can help it. It's got this beautiful coat of resin on it. Let's see, let me reach around here. So this will just lock us in nice and steady and secure, so that we can work on the outside before we go to the inside of this guy. Alrighty. I'm going to get a sip of something cold here real quick. All right. Are we ready? I think we are. Let's see, turn my speed all the way back down. We are in, and let's go to overhead for you. Let's see how this looks. Let's make sure things stay in focus, that I don't have the cameras wrong. Use my fingers in my ring. That everything stays in focus. We'll turn this about 1,000. And we'll get this trued up, and it'll be smoother. There's a little bit of vibration right now. You look at the end camera, you see how she looks at the 1,000. Now, I'm not going to touch those corners with my fingers, but you can see the natural wood edge. There's a dark line right there. That's the natural wood edge. Let's see, where's it? Right here. That's the pink. That's the resin. It's harder for you to see now. Where can I get rubber chuckies? You have to buy rubber chuckies from rubberchucky.com, which is Don Doyle. He retails them direct. So rubberchucky.com will get you in touch with Mr. Doyle. He's retired molder caster industry, and a turner, and so now he makes a whole line of these different rubber chuckies and sells them direct. He said AAW, he got like 100 orders when Rudy Lopez has been a big fan of them for a long time and was using them, and during the AAW live stream symposium, he said he had about 100 orders come in. Now, I don't know if you can see, that's the end overhead. I don't know how much you can see of, this is the wood. It's real close to the surface right here. I mean, it's virtually right there, and then it falls away, okay? And we know that this bowl is not, the core bowl is not perfectly round. So I'm going to start working this bottom corner away and getting that shape worked in. That's our next step. So it's just a lot of material to move. All right, so that's what we're going to do. Now I'm going to end up being a mess, but that's okay. That's what I'm here for. Now I'll start out with the small number 1 hollower. While this is not round, make sure I'm at center height. Raise my tool rest up a little bit. I'll try and keep this clean down here so you can see a little bit better contrast and see the shape forming. It is purely freeform. I love it. I'm having a ball. All right, that looks pretty good. I'll try and keep, like I say, I'll try and keep all these streams out of here. All right, let's get messy. So I'll use the small cutter to get this round. And I'm actually going to stand upwind of the chips. It's going to throw them all over the computers, but at least it's not wood dust. And I'm going to come up here and get rid of that sharp edge, because if I touch that, I'll cut myself real bad. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn that sharp corner off right now. Alright, because if I was to inadvertently let my hand touch that without getting rid of that, that would be bad. So I don't know if you can see the shine going away, the gloss, but there's still a little bit of gloss behind the cut. That's where, and I'll stop this in a second. So that's where it's still not quite been cut because it's not quite round. So as it comes around, there's where we haven't quite cut yet, and then once we cut it, it gets a satin look to it, a dull look. Okay, so that's one way you know that you're not quite round yet. So I took a risk, I took a chance on putting the pearlescent powder in there, but I think it'll make for a nice little accent to it. I didn't want a whole lot. I didn't want it heavy. And I know you guys might like to see the stream sometimes. So here's what's coming off of here as we come down through here. You get those nice big long streamers coming off. Just a big long stream. Kind of fun. Kind of get them all over you. And again, the beauty is I don't have to pick up the tool. I can just come back the other direction. And what happens is they get hung up on my light bar up top. And then they hang down like spider webs and all that good stuff. And it makes a real mess. Alright. It gets on my controller. They get everywhere, but that's what makes resin fun. And my computers over there are completely covered. I might just turn the end camera at one point today and show you. So I'm going to switch. Oh, I don't know what I'm showing you now. Should be showing you that. I don't know what camera I just showed you. I may have hit the wrong button. I did. I went away completely. Pay no attention to that. that lack of anything but the back screen. I don't know who runs my controls around here, but it is what it is. So I'm waiting for this to come back around so I can see. Now you can see. We'll go back to the overhead so you can watch it. So we've already cut into wood right here. So that's our first touch into the wood. And so that's going to be, even though this is the high point, it's interesting. That's why this piece is so interesting in the way it's warped. This is the high point of the bowl in diameter. This is the high point of the bowl in height. So it's an interesting piece. There's nothing standard or normal about it. So let's go back to making a mess here. And I know that I'm just going to work this bottom corner for a little while because we've got a lot of material to get rid of here. See, we're in the overhead, yeah. Luckily, I don't need to see real well right now because it's just kind of covering my head. So you're going to cast skulls, Jeff. You're going to be casting skulls with the Chromacraft resin. Well, that's cool. If you're into skulls, that's a wonderful thing. Hopefully you make them like iridescent colors. And make eyes that glow. Things like that. It's pretty funny. Like I say, the computers are just off the screen there, and so as I'm making these cuts, these streams are going all the way over to the wall where the computers are, and it looks like a haunted house movie over there already. But you can see it's a nice controlled cut. No craziness. Now, the resin is hard. This this cured. This has been cured. Let me stop here for a second. Clean myself off so I can talk, because the tool's getting hot. That's what I was going to say. The tool's getting hot because there's a lot of friction. There's a lot of friction. It really is a mess over there. There's a lot of friction cutting the resin, and I'm cutting through quite a bit of resin. So the tool does get hot, and even the stainless steel. Your fingers get hot there after a little bit. So because I can't hold on to that for more than about 5 seconds right now. And one thing to keep in mind, it's not as big an issue when you have thick resin. Get this out of here. When the resin's thick, it's not a big issue. But when the resin gets thin, the resin gets hot as well. And if it's thin, if you're down to 1/8 of an inch kind of stuff, doing small little things, it will actually get soft and warp. Talking with the chemist over at Chromacraft, that he informs me how for this split millisecond, nanosecond, whatever length of time, super short, the resin actually melts as we're cutting it with these cutters, and then it almost instantly sets right back up. And so when I turn the real small things, like if I make a little teeny, do an egg cast, and then make the real thin, paper thin things, they'll get hot and they'll warp. You can watch them move. And if you want to squeeze them while they're warm, you can hold them, and then they'll set right back up and they'll stay oval after you've turned them. So there's a lot of different things that you can do. I'm just kind of letting that tool cool down for a second because it was starting to get hot on my fingers. So we're kind of moving in on this now. Show you back here on the overhead. Not worrying about this top so much yet. I've got this big corner to take away. You can see this is the bark inclusion, the hole. And it's a combination of how much wood do we expose and how much resin do we leave in place. So it's going to be interesting to see how it works out. But that's what our plan is. So hopefully that tool's cooled down a little bit. One thing about a touchscreen controller is if you go to wipe off all the streamers, you change the channel. Okay? So I'm going to get my mouse back on. We're going to go back in here on this guy. Jeff, you can't wait for the water clear. Yeah, me either. I just have, small amounts of it to test for them. It was funny when I took the little feather bowl over that I gave to my mom, and I showed it to the owner of Chromacraft. He said, "Oh, I thought that." He said, and he went like this. He goes, "I thought it was big." I said, "Well, they only gave me a pint. How big a piece can I make out of a pint of resin?" So I use it sparingly. I don't waste it. But yeah, it's really neat stuff. All right, so back to the overhead. Into this corner we go. Now, one of the things I've been playing with is dyeing resin with the aniline dye after the fact, and this is a piece that I'm thinking that may come into play. If you remember several episodes ago, when I turned what looked like a Coke bottle just at the end of the day having fun, and it was kind of a beige, clear and green, and I dyed it with a violet or indigo blue, and it dyes the resin great, so it gives you options on new things that you can do, even to a colored resin after the fact. The aniline dye will do that, and then especially if you're going to work with a lacquer finish after the fact, you can do a lot of different things with the colors. So now I'm starting to blend, working my way into what I'd already cut down here on the bottom. So Dennis, I have one more. I think I have one more of these masters. One went out the other day. Safety masks are really hard to get right now, as you can imagine, and they're $24.95 in the store. Spiracraft.com, shop.spiracraft.com. Just go to spiracraft.com, click on shop. There is a new version which I can't get yet, which flips up. I don't know when I'm going to be able to get it, but I do have. I know I have at least one more out there. I think I have two, but but I know there was one just the other day. So jump in the store there and grab it. You drill little holes down at the bottom of them. Let me show you here real quick since you're asking. Drill holes right in this section right here, and it helps your hot breath come out. They work great. So we're starting to make our traditional shape here come around, blend into that wood. And then we're going to stop, and I'll be getting out the denatured alcohol because I'm going to want to test. I'm going to want to decide how thick or thin I make this. And so we'll wet this down, and we'll see what it's going to look like. I think, I see it right up there on the shelf. And that'll give us an idea. And let's do that real quick while I'm letting that tool cool down and letting me cool down. I'm going to grab some denatured alcohol. We'll just rub it on here. Maybe a fresh paper towel is in order. And it'll flash glossy for a second, even with all the tool marks in it. And you'll be able to see what it's going to look like. See, find a place to put this. So we're in the overhead. So what I really optimally want to do, and there's our inclusion right there. That's the highlight of the piece. So that's the wood. That's all but touching the wood right there. And there's our bark inclusion. So I would love to keep a layer of resin on the whole thing, but I know I can't. So when I it's going to get a lacquer style finish on it, or maybe even a brush coat of resin and sanded. So that's what I kind of want to keep some depth to it, but I also know that I'm going to expose wood because this is wood touching here, and the wood is a long way away. Now I have another question that I have to solve. Is up here on the top. This is wood sticking out that's above this, and the wood goes way down. It goes down in here, almost 3/4 of an inch. So how much? I think I'm going to leave part wood rim and part resin rim. All right, this is a hybrid. It's an organic. So a lot of decisions to be made there. But anyway, I hope you can see that when I flash that up. I'll do it one more time. So that's what I'm going to use to kind of keep an eye on this. And again, there's resin. The stabilizing resin is in the wood. So it actually, see how it has a little finish to it already because there is resin in the wood, even though it's the stabilizing resin. All right? All right, I'm going to put this over here out of the way. And let's go back to work on this. I think I'm going to save when I show you over here on the computers. I'll save that for a little while once we're done with this outside edge of things. All right, let's go to overhead. Clean off my mask so I can see. If anybody's got any questions, just pop them in the comment column there. I've got a screen right in front of me that I can look at and see. If you've got a question, it literally pops up right in front of me. We're on the overhead. Here we come back in here to start to blend this bottom in. Now the bottom is wood, exposed wood. I'm going to check that cutter real quick and make sure the cutter's tight. Sometimes the cutter can loosen up on you, you don't know it. That vibration. So I'm going to check that real quick, just to be certain. It wasn't loose, but I'm going to go ahead and turn it while I got it loose anyway, just to freshen up that tip. Okay, back to it. And I'm just bringing this right down to the wood base that I already have there. And blend this together. Take a look at what's going on there, where I'm at. So what I'm getting is, I'm getting wood, it's cutting wood, and I know you can't quite see it. This is the wood, and this is resin, so it's bouncing between the two different densities more than likely, which is what's making that vibration. So I've got a little ridge there. I'm going to take that ridge away. Because they do cut differently between this, even though there's stabilizing resin in the wood, they still have a different density, obviously, than straight resin. Okay. And it's just right there at that transition where that's going on. Okay, so what I think I want to do here, let me get this taken away. I've got my general outside shape. I want to go in, I'm going to turn this away, turn that away. Then I'm going to go inside, come around to the end, go inside, and we're going to true up the inside so that we know what we're working with. We don't want to get too committed to a dimension on a piece like this without knowing where all the parameters are. Okay, so let's go ahead and clean up this top, get this all gone to where it's true and flat, smooth, uniform. So after a while, when I show you the computers, you'll see what I'm talking about. Now they're going to move, when I do a kind of an overhaul out here, they're going to move to the far end of this studio and be in a small little enclosed space to keep them out of all this crazy dust and stuff. And you'll see why that's necessary. I just haven't gotten to that yet. Alright, let's see if we've gotten all that cut away. Alright, so a little more wood is exposed, but now we're uniform on the outside here. Alright? That's all good. So, let's come around to the end for you. Let's flatten out this top. And this will make a big difference. We'll see this wood get exposed. Now, if I need to zoom that in a little bit, I can. It's interesting when you're turning a hybrid because you smell, when you start cutting into the wood, you smell the wood smell all of a sudden. You've been smelling the resin odor, if you will, and then all of a sudden you smell the wood, and it's kind of like, oh, what's that other smell? Shows it's being out of stock. Okay, I will check that, Dennis, and pop me an email. Dennis to info@spirecraft.com and just say, hey, we were talking online, I should remember. I may have, just to be safe, set it at 0 when I ran out there the other day. I think what I have is a one more left that's just not in the bag. And I'll go change that stock to available and send you a note and say, hey, that it's actually there and you can jump in and order it, okay? At least nobody else will get it because it shows out of stock right now. Alright, let's see how that top's cut. What's that starting to look like? So we've got the wood that we're cutting, and now that's all resin. All right. So the question is, how far down do I want to take this? How much resin do I want to leave showing? It's interesting how this resin, I don't know, you can't quite see it. The wood rolls around. You see the wood here, and then the resin comes in, but then the wood appears on the side, and it actually wraps right here. So that's kind of cool. So I think I may not take, relatively speaking, any more off the top. I may leave the top just this tall. All right, you know, it's a work in progress as it develops. All right. Let's see here. I need something cold and wet real quick, and then we'll keep going on the inside. Somebody's going to have some cleanup to do around here today, because this place is a mess. All right, let's go inside here and get this trued up on the inside. We're going to leave the rubber chucky right in place. Okay, and I'm going to switch over, pardon the arm, stop the lathe. I'm going to switch back over to the number 1 hollower for a lighter cut on this inside edge. And somehow my tool wrist dropped down. I don't know how I did that, but let's fix that. Got to get back up to center. I guess when I moved it around, I dropped it down. Okay, Dennis, good. So we're on the same page. Excellent. One thing you'll find, we work really hard, Spirecraft customer service. We do whatever we can. It is our number one thing that we try to help the customers who support us, because without you, we wouldn't be here. And I have my wife Bridget to thank for that. She's a librarian, career librarian, and customer service is the most important thing, and she taught me the true ins and outs and why, and I'll say that I'm a changed man, and I'm happy that I mean I really do. Day, night, on my phone, customer service questions I answer. You ask some of the other folks that are in here that know that. I don't have off hours. I should sometimes. But if I can answer your question, if it's 10 o'clock at night, I'm there. Everything feeds to the phone. You know, in this digital world, you're always available if you want to be. And I like to think that that's what's helping set Spirecraft apart from some of the others. So I'm just making this smooth down through here. And then I'm going to have to try and decide, you know, how much of the outside do I take away, how much of the inside do I take away to get my final thickness. And so I'll be looking for that magic balance, which, you know, may or may not be that easy to find. So I can't see what's going on at the cutter, but I'm watching over here at the other side. And that's where I can see the cut line moving. Get that out of there. It's really helpful once you get over the fact that you don't need to see the tool all the time. The bottom's not perfectly flat. I know I don't want to take much resin off the bottom because I like the way that bottom looks, but it's pretty out of whack down in there. This is kind of interesting. So I want you to see how this is developing. So we're going to stop here for a second. I'm sorry about my arm. And I'm going to pull, let me change the camera for a sec. I'm going to pull the tailstock back so I can show you inside here what's happening, how this is developing. And going for in camera. So here's the wood that we're cutting, right? And we're cutting into the wood, and this is our
or bark inclusion void, and then this is all still resin. So we've got a resin band, and then this is solid wood now, and then the resin band blends back in. This really is kind of the look that I was looking for. I wanted this resin to flow in and flow out of the wood, and yet still kind of look like it's part of all the craziness, because then we have the bark inclusion down in here. So let me do this. I'm going to pull the tailstock off so we can see this better. I can see it better. You can see better. And we'll work our way down in here and just smooth this out. This will help us decide just how much material we're going to take away. All right. Alrighty. And off we go. I think I'm on the right camera there. Yeah. So it's not smooth yet in the bottom. We've got to go ahead and bite the bullet and get that smooth. Now if you're wondering also, how did I keep this open? Well, it was a double mold. I had a bowl on the outside. The wood bowl went into a big plastic bowl, and then a smaller bowl went in the center. If you maybe saw the pictures, I had a chuck wrapped up. That was my weight to hold it down. So I displaced all this material, so I didn't have to utilize and waste all that resin. So we'll get this all flat in here. So we still got a little low spot right in there. This is looking really cool. The wood is exposing that bark edge, which has been, again, stabilized with the resin. So I'm really liking the way this looks. Again, I want to take, I think, as little away from the inside here as possible. I think we'll be taking more off the outside than the inside. So we're uneven right here. We need to get that flattened out. Which won't take long. Alright, let's take another look. Alright, just a little shiny spot still left right there. Alright, let's see what this is looking like in here. I like that a lot. Still got a little bit of cleaning up to do. There's a little line right here from the bottom bowl mold. Let me get around here. I'll wipe this with the denatured alcohol so you can kind of get a feel for what it's looking like in there when it's shiny and glossy. Run out of alcohol before the day's over. So if you look quick as it shines up. I know it's not the perfect view, but that's the general idea. So see this line right here? That's from the mold. So we need to turn that out. Alright, so that's pretty cool in there. We've got all kinds of stuff going on. The beautiful texture of the wood, so it's a wonderful juxtaposition, if you will. The texture of the wood and the colorants in the resin, the swirls in the resin. So I got to get rid of that line right there. That has to go. How am I doing on time? 11:22. Taking longer than I thought. And again, this piece I've already determined is going to get a lacquer finish when it's done. That way it'll have a uniform look to it. It's a decorative piece. All right, just a little teeny bit more there. I'm pretty close to having that line gone. So we're going to pass all the way from the top down through here. Swing right across. All right, let's stop right there. I like the look of that on the inside, and I may end up leaving this thing thicker than I was talking about earlier. So a little bit of a ridge right there that we can fix up. But I like that I've got a little pocket of resin here, just in the nature of the wood. And I got that. This is looking cool. So I think I'm going to go back out to the outside now. Back out to the outside. And we're going to work this outside down. So here's what I want to do, because...
Oh, no, I'm not done throwing it. I'm going to show you this mess here in a little bit. It's just funny as it can be over there, how much of a mess is over there. So I'm going to come back now and work the outside. Right now, we're what, probably an inch thick, give or take. Yeah, we're right about an inch thick. So I will cut down through the outside here and hopefully get the same concept. If you we look at the inside again, and we look at how much we have a mixture of wood and resin and that natural bark inclusion right in here. So we're really combining the different elements and in a super simple form, but it's actually fairly complex in its own way, right? So if I can get this type of style look on the outside of a blend of resin and wood and kind of in a hodgepodge format, then I'll be really happy. All right, so let's go to the overhead. And again, any questions, you holler at me. I'm just turning away and having fun. Obviously, I'm not going to sand this piece today, but I can, when I flush it with the denatured alcohol, you can see what it will look like when it's all smooth and got its finish on it. All right, back to the outside. Turn that by hand. I hitting the chuck. Not good. We are in the overhead camera. I'm going to put my tailstock back up just because, in case I did something silly. Do I think it will happen? No. Could it possibly happen? Yes. So, just to be safe, because on a piece like this, if we had an inadvertent catch and we were exactly where we wanted to be, and then we had to dig down, cut a bunch of way to fix that, we would be quite remorse for not having had a little extra security up in there. Top needs a little lip. Yeah, Art, I'm going to do something to the top there. I haven't decided yet. I'm saving the top concept design, if you will, for depending on the thickness of the piece.
All right. Tell me which way you think you'd like to see the lip go. In, out, up, down. What's on your mind? I am wide open. I will turn it any way that y'all would like to see it go. All right. Let's take some more of this away. And again, the beauty of using these round style cutters is I can just come right back up as I shape the piece. Again, though I've got a long way to go, and I want to keep the profile smooth as I go, so that I don't have to go fixing a bunch of stuff after, at the end. So I want to try and keep it pretty smooth, plus it's good practice. Matter of fact, on that note, stop here for a second. Because I want my cuts to be smooth now, I'm going to make sure my tool rest doesn't have any rust or nicks, and I got stuff hanging all over me. I know I'm a mess, but hey, it comes with the territory. I'm going to take my flat file and just clean up, even if it's just the rust on here. I'm down here, it's close to Savannah. Things rust overnight on you. So I just cleaned up my tool rest with my flat file, so it slides nice and smooth. Always do the whole thing so you don't get a U shape in it. All right, because burrs just mysteriously appear. They do, and they'll haunt you. Okay, that's why I keep this always handy. You can see I'm a mess. Well, how's the back look? It's fun being a turner, especially when you're turning resin. It's a big old mess. All right. My tool rest is smooth. Make sure I'm still center axis. Pretty close. I might be a fuzz high. All right. I've learned, like I said, not to try and wipe this because there's 3,700 buttons on here. All right, we're going overhead. Curl down the outside. Curl down to the outside, maybe 1/8. Curl down to the outside. Curl down to the outside. Let me think on that. See if I can get my head around it. Art, and you talking about just kind of roll it down? Just roll the outside corner off? Is that what you're thinking about? And now another thing I'll do, I know carbide cutters stay sharp for a long time, but here in a little bit, because I'm using the right side exclusively of this cutter, I'll probably rotate this cutter to the other side just to keep it as sharp as possible. One thing I have going against me is trying to look at the profile. I'm looking at my work table that's out in front of the lathe, and it's kind of just a beige, natural wood color. I would be better off if I had something dark up there, good high contrast. Okay. And I'm going to start stopping more frequently, so I can watch as the wood begins to appear. What I really want is to see the wood grain appear but still be behind the resin, if that makes sense to you. Okay. Obviously, some of the wood is going to be exposed, and that's what I want. And the closer I can get, and this is getting, I'm taking the thickness down up here. The closer I can get to having some of that resin still, especially with the pearl powder floating over top of the wood, that's kind of what I envisioned when I poured it down in there. Now, it's a fact that things don't always go the way we envisioned or we hoped in so many things. I'm trying to make myself a hole here where I can see. Tool's actually getting quite hot because we're cutting a lot of resin here today. Again, the sharper the cutter is, the less friction, so the cooler it'll stay. Now I'm starting to run into that transition zone at the bottom where it meets the wood. So I'll probably start to get some vibration right there. Stop and take a look. Get the stuff off my head. So what's pretty cool is the wood is starting to roll up around the corner right here just a little bit, and yet not the other side is all resin. So the more goofy looking it is, the happier I'm going to be, if you understand what I'm saying. Alright, I'm going to rotate this cutter real quick. Get my ice pick out. I'm going to rotate this cutter. Always clean out the Allen wrench hole so that you don't strip, one, your wrench, and two, the screw. So we're just going to give this a turn. To about there. Snug that back up. All right. I can't wait till I show you this mess over here. It's kind of cool. It's scary what it's covering, but it's kind of cool. Okay. Off we go into the overhead. Scratch the itch on my head. There we go. All right, let's go back to work. Like I said, so I'm trying to stay more consistent with my shape so that I don't have a lot of fixing to do after the fact. Stop that. Double check that I haven't changed in here. It's always a little risky tightening this back up, but that's still snug. That vibration that I'm getting there, we'll have to work that out. So we're probably, whittling this down, maybe a 30-second at a pass. Okay. So here I can see the wood through there pretty good. I'm probably half an inch thick. I'll grab the calipers here in a second. It's probably a solid half an inch thick. Right in there. Get rid of that. It's giving me a hard time right in there. So now it really becomes again about a nice smooth uniform curve and matching a uniform wall thickness with the inside and the outside. You can see how much slower I'm starting to move. Okay, this is looking pretty cool. Let's put a little alcohol in here for a short-term gloss look. See what we get. We're just about out. So that's pretty interesting. Like I said, even our wood looks very similar. Obviously there's a change in color right there. I love the kind of the pinkish swirl from the pearl powders. Okay. All right, how thick is this guy? Let's get the calipers out and see what we got going on here. We're in the overhead. That's probably still 3/4 down in there. So I think I may let it open up right here. If I take enough off of this, I got plenty of wood. I'm going to roll this bottom over some more. And this is the part that's making it vibrate. But I'm going to roll this bottom around for a little bit better shape. Because there's a ton of wood down here in the very bottom. If you can see that, there's still a lot of wood right there in that corner. All right, and it might be nice to go ahead and let this whole area open up to wood, if it does, as we take that away. So I'm not opposed to that by any means. All right, off we go. Down here in the screeching zone. And I'm going to just start to change this whole profile right here. So I visualize the curve that I want. And then I start to commit to it. And again, you could do a million things here. I could let this curve back around. For kind of an OG look with the wood. I mean, there's a million ways you can go here. It's all what you want to do and what you think looks the best for the project at hand. It's a good thing it doesn't take much pressure on the end of this tool. I got one finger about 3 inches up because it's really hot. Okay, got to clear my goggles so I can see here. All right, so that's just about together. Now I need to take some of this top off before I get too thin down here. I need to take some of this upper wood away. So this is going to open up and be all wood right in here. And I'm okay with that. Matter of fact, I'm happy with that. I kind of want to have that change take place. So I'm going to take some of this thickness out of the top here before it's too late. And I think you're right, Art. I think I'm going to roll this rim both ways. I think I'm going to roll it over. Just give it a nice big round bead. And because we stabilized this piece of maple and then we cast it, this whole big void, I don't know if you remember Monday a week, that was just flopping around and about to break. So by using these methods, it allows us to make this piece all come back together. All right. And it's a wonderful thing right here. Okay. How am I doing on time? 11:42, about out of time. I better hustle a little bit. I'll get this shape where I want it. Again, I'm not going to sand this today. At least not while you're watching. I just want to get this uniform. Then I'll get a radius tool out and really clean it up. Okay, now, I'm pretty happy with where that's at. All right. Let's radius this rim. Let's go ahead and roll this rim over. So let's go back to the end camera. See if I can get these off of here where I can touch this. Let's go back to the end camera. And let's roll this corner over. I think I'm going to roll this whole thing, Art, both ways. Heat resistant mechanics gloves, Mr. Peters says. Sounds like a cool idea. There's a lot of things you could do with a rim like this too if you wanted to. You could cut a groove in the top and do an inlay in it, like a black inlay bead around this whole top. That would be just something. There's a world of things that we could do, but I like just rolling this over for a nice smooth transition. I'm going to take a little bit more of the outside of this away as I'm doing this. It's a little thick right there. The other thing you can do, Jeff, is just have two tools that are the same. So you change tools out, let one cool off and grab the other. I know that requires having lots of tools, but isn't that what it's about? It's having lots of tools. Let's see what we got going on here. I like it. So the top is rolled over, nice and smooth. I mean, the cuts aren't perfectly smooth just yet, but it's got a nice feel to it. This resin flows in and out, round and about. All right, so before I wrap up here, because it's quarter till, I'm going to grab a radius tool, just show you how I would clean this up with a radius tool. As soon as I find it, there it is. And I'm not sure which corner is the sharpest on this one. I think I'm going to change this one. I'm going to get a little fresh air here for a second, guys. I know I turned this the other day, but I think I turned it 180 degrees. I'm just going to turn it 90. On these negative rate cutters, it's really hard unless you can go make a mark on the bottom side, but I never do. I always forget when I put them on fresh to do that. So this is a square style but negative rate cutter that is kind of your final cut tool, and
it should be one that you only use for making your finish cuts. And you can only use it on the outside. Can't use it on the inside. But it'll clean up our tool marks here. So when I switch you back to the overhead, the tool marks and the rolls here, that's what this will clean up, and it'll come right around the corner. We can come right around the corner with it as well there. Now if it's not super fresh and sharp, it won't do the job it's supposed to do. And I'm not sure exactly what condition this one is. And I just looked at my little stash over here, and I don't have any more of those. They're out at the warehouse. So I'll just have to do what I can with it. So let's go ahead and clean this up, and then we'll start to wrap things up here a little bit. So you can see it's going to be a nice light cut. You don't want the corners to touch, that's why it's radiused. And it smooths up your big tool marks. Take your time and go nice and slow. And it makes a nice smooth finish. Then you can start your sanding. And if you've got little humps or bumps in it, well then you can use this to go ahead and clean those up. Okay? And so it cleans that surface up really well. And I could make another couple passes across here. I'll make one more pass across here. Let me come up here on the top of this rim as well. Come up here and come around this corner. And you can see it's almost like sanding. Okay. We just smooth that radius up. And that's so much nicer. And we're going to turn to 900. We'll dial this up about 1500 and see if we get a little bit cleaner cut, since we're kind of on our final cuts here. Because the less you have to sand, the better your life is. Okay. So now, let's go ahead and hit that with the alcohol to give you an idea of what this may look like. The other thing about what we've got here, I could dye this wood. This is what I was talking about. I've got some dyes there. If you put it on, you own it. All right, that's the thing. You're committed. Let's hit it with a little bit of alcohol just to see what this looks like. So you have a distinct difference, although they flow together, they change nicely. All right. Before I would dye this, I would take another piece of this that I've got somewhere and see, especially if I had a scrap, or I might do it on the very bottom or something that I could turn away. I'd want to see what color and what the color is going to do before I committed to it. Otherwise, I would color the entire thing with another color of dye. And I might go, because this has got the reddish pinkish tint, I might go, the safe bet would be to take, let's say the magenta, and because this is kind of a magenta look with it, because I put the white in there. Take a magenta dye and dilute it way down, so where it's very weak. And then when we dyed it, we would be adding the magenta hue to the wood and to the existing magenta color. So it would make an accent. That's probably the safest bet to go. That's the thing about dyes. When you dye a piece, you pretty much own it. If it's paint, you can sand it off. Dye, you're going to own it when you put dye on it. So tread lightly or fear not, whichever you want to choose is your way of going about things in life, because it's not gonna come out without turning it away. Okay. I like this. It's not as thin maybe as I have thought about making it, but it's quite respectable for the piece as a decorative piece. So this will sand up nicely,
I would be really happy with that. I'm going to flood this again so you can see it. This is a really neat piece. I'll probably, spray lacquer on it. You know how I do, just to get these where I can shoot them. Again, I got to think about this dye, and I'll probably experiment on the bottom and see if I like anything. But I love how this filled in my hole here, my void. It looks great from both sides. That's pretty cool. And remember, this is the bark. Where are we at here? We're in me. Overhead. This bark is here, and this black line, that's the opening. That's the gap that was in the bark. That's the void that we filled with the resin. Now, why it looks so dark is that void isn't just straight up and down. It's actually kind of shifted at an angle. So you're looking at bark on the other side, if that makes any sense, on how that goes. Frank says, don't dye, it looks great. Yeah, it's a tough one. I kind of like the natural, the juxtaposition of the just natural against the resin. And everything is different, So I agree. This would be great, and I think it would be cool if you always want to have two of them that are identical, and one you would leave it just like this and just put clear coat on it, and the other you would dye it and see what you get. We're not that lucky usually. You know how that goes. So here's what I want. Here's one thing I want to do, and I'm going to go to the overhead. I'm going to change this other camera so you can see the mess that I have created over on my computers. You guys don't normally get to see this, but it's so funny looking over there. And you can also see how this runs in here, at least at the moment. See if I can get this to come up. You'll get a kick out of this one. That's a pretty good representation of what has happened. So what do you think of that mess? There's 4 computers over there, the big monitor where I'm watching. I've got the same monitor going. But look at all the resin strings that I threw over there. Isn't that crazy? And I mean, it's just like cobwebs in an old haunted house. Kind of fun. It'll clean up pretty easy. I'm waiting for that to pop up on the screen. I want to see what it looks like. There's a 20-second delay to the Facebook world. There you go. So now I can see it. Big old mess over there on the control panel, but fun nonetheless. Okay, that's enough of that. Let's go back up here, and let's see. I think I'm going to pop this out of the chuck. The next thing, I don't believe I'm really going to turn on it anymore. I think I'll be doing just the sanding work to it. So let's take it out of here and take a kind of good look at it. I know I'm looking good. I'm looking at myself there. I'm a mess. I got stuff all in me. So here is an overhead shot for you of the piece. We have wood and resin and wood and voids and holes and neat cool things. And then when we turn it over, we still have a little work to do on the bottom there. And what I would do is I would put it in the bowl jaws, and I would clean up this bottom, roll this over some more. But there's what we look like on the outside relative to the bottom. I like the way it just kind of flows around. Again, it is what it is. But I kind of like the way that works. I like how this line of natural wood comes up here. This is just a little band and then rolls smoothly down in there. And then it's jaggedy coming back up here. I don't know. I just kind of like this stuff. Some people don't. I think it's pretty cool. And it was a piece of wood that otherwise we couldn't have done anything with. This piece wasn't really turnable in the previous state, because there was not enough wood to turn it and it wasn't stable. So by using the stabilizing process, put it in the vacuum chamber with the stabilizing resin, that stabilized the wood so that we could then
cast it to fill all the voids and the out of roundness because the piece was so warped that we couldn't turn it round. And we have now a nice, unique piece that was otherwise firewood. Yep, it's a little bit of work, a little bit of materials, but it's a one of a kind. And I always get a laugh out of people say there's no, everybody, the same thing has been done before. Well, shape-wise, okay, you can argue that one all day long. But a piece like this, there is no other. There's only one. And that's what makes this hobby so much fun, is you truly do get to make unique, one-of-a-kind pieces, and you made them. And it's really not that hard. Little practice, a few of the right tools, a couple of systems for stabilizing and the resin casting. A small investment, yes, but it's one that's going to last you for the rest of your turning hobby time. And you can make really cool things. And on that note, it is 11:57. So I will take any last questions here for the last couple of minutes before we wrap up. And then I'll shut this guy down and we'll go on about our business. Look forward to the emails if you're in the Spydercraft email list. I don't email out a whole lot, but I can start picking that back up. But look forward to some emails coming out tomorrow, the next day, with some specials and with the offering for the instruction, things like that. That'll be coming out at you. Excuse the cough. I had a lot of fun here today. I hope you picked up some tips and had a good time. And I appreciate it, everybody coming out. So we're going to wrap this up. I see it's 11:58. Everybody, have a good, safe week. I don't know what next Monday's going to bring, but I know it'll be fun. So I will keep you posted. I'll have pictures of this up sometime later this week. I'll get some finish on it, and we'll go from there. So everybody, thank you very much. Have a great week. Stay safe. Stay away from this nasty virus stuff. And I appreciate everybody coming out, and I'll see you next Monday. Bye.